let's talk about VR versus monitors in sim racing. Some years ago, this was my setup. A simple G29, low cockpit, and a VR headset. Yes, when I started in iRacing, I used VR right away, just because it was pretty much the same price of a single monitor, so I decided to try it. 3 years later, I was one of the few drivers in iRacing who had over 7,000 iRating still using VR. The absurd majority of the top level sim racers were using monitors. Why is that? Well, the truth is that I also moved to monitors at some point and continued going up to 8,500 iRating, which is around the top 0.1% ranking. The main reason I moved to triple screens was streaming. I wanted people to see my face and reactions, and after that move, I literally became a content creator and coach, which evolved to what we have today in my YouTube and my live streams. This video is the definitive answer to the question, what is better for sim racing, VR or monitors? For this video, Pimax sent me one of their Crystal Light headsets, but this is a non-paid honest review. Let's go. This is a comparison between VR and triple monitors. VR is by far better than a single screen, so that's not even comparable. If you have to choose between a single monitor and a VR headset, the VR is a no-brainer when it comes to field of view and immersion. So remember that all the comparisons here are between VR and triple screens. Cost. The cost of a VR headset is much lower than the cost of triple screens and their respective stands. This is the main reason I started with VR instead of going to triples. The PC requirements are pretty similar for both, so if you have a PC that's good enough for triples, it will be good enough for VR. Video quality. The Crystal Light I used for this video has a crazy high resolution of 2880 by 2880. I remember that a few years ago, resolution was a big factor in the comparison between VR and monitors because you could literally see the pixels in VR and so on. The good thing is that that is not even a point for discussion anymore because I have not seen any pixels while driving in VR with the Crystal Light. I have to be honest with you though, I tested this with my PC with a 4090 GPU in it, so I'm not really sure how it would perform with other models. Ease of use. Nowadays, VR felt pretty easy to set up, especially the Pimax Crystal Light. I remember back then it was very tricky to get going with iRacing, but nowadays with a simple click I changed my viewing mode from monitor to VR and it worked right away. Monitors require more time and effort initially to set up, but after that you can forget about it and just drive whenever you want. Immersion. We will never forget the first experience in VR, and if there's two things that VR feels like it was made for, it's driving and flight simulation. Just being able to see true field of view and depth of perception. All the 3D aspects of the cockpit around you. There's nothing more incredible than that when you put the VR for the first time. Fighting for position? Just look to the sides. Drifting or driving on the limit, you can feel and understand the behavior of the car very easily and visually. And that really brings you into the zone much more easily than triple screens. One note though, immersion is more of a fun aspect, but I do understand that some people have different goals and different ways of having fun. For example, I have a lot of fun being extremely precise, doing extremely fast lap times in many races. So if this is more important to you than the immersion itself, then after a while the immersion that VR provides you stops becoming a huge factor just because you'll kind of get used to it and you kind of stop caring too much about it. And then the other factors become stronger, like comfort. VR is still not super comfortable, especially if you plan on doing very long sessions, or if you are a streamer like me, planning to drive 6-7 hours non-stop. The Pimax Crystal Light is comfortable compared to other headsets I tested, and I did test many of them during all those years of sim racing career, and I love how there's absolutely no light coming into the headset. There's no light bleeding. But when I was recording this video and I moved back to monitors and I did another race just to compare, it felt like a relief coming back to monitors. And here's something that I noticed that I don't see anyone talking about in these kinds of video reviews: the shakiness in VR. Listen, I'm going to talk about shakiness in VR after having this experience in real life. So here's what I think about this shakiness thing. When you are inside a race car, everything is moving around, but the horizon far away is pretty stable. And that's your way to push through the vibrations and to understand where you're going and to remain at your core. So even though I'm doing turn 1 at Sebring with the radical and everything is shaking, I still know where I'm going and I can look far ahead to a spot that is pretty much stable compared to the whole shakiness that's happening inside the car, and that keeps me grounded. Now in VR, what I noticed is that any vibration that happens on my head is delayed by the way that the headset itself behaves. Because I shake my head and then the headset kind of vibrates and wobbles a little bit up and down. And what I noticed is that the sensor for movement might be a little bit towards the top of the headset and not closer to your face. And it actually shakes a little bit after you did move your head. So with that kind of movement, the whole horizon also moves. And that made the experience feels so weird to me after having the experience in real life and having such a stable horizon even in the most aggressive situations. And because I developed a vision technique in real life to look pretty far ahead and to really plan my moves in advance, having that shakiness far ahead in my view was really killing it for me when I was doing VR. And as soon as I came back to monitors, I felt that stable horizon just giving me all the information that I needed, and it felt way better. So this is the biggest issue for me with this specific headset, is that maybe because of the positioning of the sensor and the way that the headset is a little bit far from your head itself, it creates those fake movements that did really distract me. And after a while, after driving for an hour and a half, I started feeling that that was bothering me more than anything else. Maybe the solution for that would be to actually install the sensor a little bit closer to your eyes so it doesn't pick up all those waves and continuous movements that happen after you move your head in any way. I never had anyone talk to me about that specifically. This is the first time I'm actually discussing about this with anyone, and I decided to make a video to talk about it. So if you do have a similar experience, let me know in the comments, because I'm very curious to see if it's only me. But now let's talk about driving performance. Lastly, driving performance is an important one, and here's what I noticed. At the very beginner level, driving performance is actually superior in VR. The instinctive, true to life field of view, the notion of true depth, all this makes the initial experience much more natural to beginners, and their performance is on average much better compared to monitors. At an intermediate level, the driving performance now becomes pretty equal, and you can see very fast drivers in VR competing equally with very fast drivers in monitors. But at the very top level though, and here we're talking about esports competition, fighting for hundreds of a second per corner, driving extremely consistently at the top 0.5% in the world. This is where I noticed that monitors start bringing a real advantage in performance because of the consistency that monitors provide. The stable horizon, the incredibly smooth video with no stutters or vibration, the comfort to drive for 3, 4, 5 hours non-stop without feeling the weight on your head, no headache, and no sweat drops around your face. These things start to slowly compound into you spending more of your mental energy into pure, lovely precision of driving. And this is why nowadays, if I were to drive purely competitively, I would not choose VR with the intention to gain any kind of advantage, because there would not be any. But until you get to this level, you should most definitely try VR and potentially enjoy months or years of it while being mesmerized with what technology can provide to us in terms of immersion and helping us get closer to the dream of being inside a race car. If you want to try VR, I did approve the Pimax Crystal Light during this review, and there's an affiliate link below as well as a $10 discount. If this was useful, hit that subscribe. My mission is to introduce, inspire, and educate racing drivers. See ya. If you're a racing driver and you want to reach an advanced level, there's a faster and easier way to become competitive. I've gone from this to this in 5 years. Now, we've created the perfect free driver development guide to help you understand the right order of racing skills to develop if you want to become a competitive driver as quickly as possible. This guide was made after 3,000 hours of combined high-level coaching.